Welcome to Upfront on the Voice of America. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Now, many people have argued that our mass adoption and constant use of digital technologies is contributing to the erosion of our values, our traditions, and our cultures. They say that this cultural erosion eventually leads to a loss of identity and pride among our young people. Our next guest seems to think otherwise. He believes that access to gadgets, the internet, and the right digital content can help preserve our African cultures. Adebayo Agbembo is the founder of Jinai Games, a Lagos-based software application development company. Adebayo is using technology and storytelling to preserve and promote African culture. His award-winning African storytelling and language learning applications provide kids and adults with creative ways of learning different African languages and, in essence, connecting to our African heritage. Adebayo, thank you very much for joining us today. It's so nice to finally connect. You're here in the U.S. as a Yali Fellow. How has your visit been so far?
I've just been trying to connect with other people here in the U.S., which is part of the whole Yali, objective in a sense, which is, cementing our networks here in the U.S. This is given that a good number of my customer base is also actually the African diaspora who are based in the U.S. So it's been me having, different engaging, sessions with them. I've had 2 events so far. I had one at the IO Spaces in Silver Spring with a couple of my partners. I also had one, yesterday at the DC Hosteling, I think they're called, with a couple of, interesting people, engaging them, trying to find out, what they would like to see, what motivates them, what are their thoughts towards indigenous African cultures, what materials or resources are they using, towards, connecting to the continent and their culture. So it's been an engaging one.
Now, what do you consider yourself more? Software developer? Are you a storyteller?
Right now, I often say that I'm the lead programmer on Jinai Games because those apps are primarily programmed by myself, right. Even though I have a team of illustrators and writers and voiceover artists and engineers that I work with.
What was your motivation?
Jinai Games was inspired by my niece, who's now 5 years old, Temiloluwa Adegbembo. She was born in 2012. I observed something that was becoming and still remains the norm, which is, parents not being interested in speaking native languages to their kids. My brother and his wife would communicate with themselves in English, and I knew this would have an effect on my niece, who was just growing up then. And it was also something that was, becoming a trend, in society, young parents refusing to speak native languages to their kids. And so I took it upon myself to, tap into what kids love, which is basically comics and colorful graphics and animation and things like that. But I channeled all of that together with my programming skills towards, delivering subjects relating to our cultures. And this was specifically a language learning app that I started with, and it's grown beyond that.
So the language learning app that you started with Jinai Games was called Asha?
So it was actually called, so we started with this brand, we started with an app called A Yoruba, and then it became the Asha brand. The Asha brand then covers
Which is a subsidiary of Jinai Games.
Yes.
And it's a range of apps that teach young children how to learn these indigenous languages.
Yes, native
and in
languages,
this case, was Yoruba for your niece.
Yes, I started with Yoruba for my niece.
Have you been able to expand to different languages, to other languages?
Yes, I have been able to expand to different languages. I have so far been able to cover 3 major Nigerian languages and also touched on a few other ones in, using storytelling.
How do you explain the fact that many kids on the African continent, or many parents on the African continent, do not want to speak to their kids in their native languages?
A number of things. Key one for me is ignorance. Ignorance being from the point of view of, people just stripping a language down to things like, career paths. What relevance would a native language be to my child, if he wants to become a doctor or an engineer? And that's an irony also. And then another thing that I find is just misconceptions about, native cultures. So, I'm someone who understands that there are aspects of cultures that do not have relevance, There were times where we used to have human sacrifices for cultural traditions.
Right.
We're well enough to do away with something like that, that's fine. But I can't understand
something as basic as a language, as very foundational as a language.
I tell you, I can't understand, and that's what for me speaks most to your cultural identity and has a larger effect on your self-confidence as a person. So, I usually don't get it. It's mind-boggling for me, and then I get arguments like, hey, speaking English to my kid would help him or her, be more fluent going forward. And I'm like, hey, well, the rule of thumb for my grandparents raising me and my parents were, look, you speak the native language at home because all your life you will be speaking English. You will be speaking English in school, and you're going through school for maybe 12 or more years, and then the society, the diverse society as Nigeria, you definitely will be communicating in English also. So it's a funny thing that I can't really explain. But what I have seen also is the fact that when they step outside of that continent, you know, to a larger society like the US, for example, then they see how much that matters.
Like a dominant culture, like in the US. Now, it's when I first spoke to you a couple of years ago, when I learned about Gina Games, in my mind, it felt like it would be something that would be targeted to a diaspora family like myself, kids growing up in the US or in Europe. In diaspora families, diaspora communities without access to their native languages. But it turns out that you have a lot of clientele, or you have a lot of potential market in Africa too, where so many people, so many families, mostly middle class families, are not promoting the use of indigenous languages in their homes.
I mean, that's the truth. I mean, if anything, I started out with that, you know, market segment in mind. You know, people like my elder brother, his wife, and you know, my nieces now, because there are 2 of them now, and it cuts across really, because I mean, even as much as, you know, the US and Europe and Brazil, for example, are potential audiences for my products, even in Africa, Nigeria, for example, in terms of my Yoruba and Igbo and Hausa apps, I get lots of patronage from Nigeria also. It also brings up a larger issue also, which is, you know, like access, you know, when it comes to payment, for example,
absolutely.
when it comes to, you know, bandwidth too, you know. But I mean, the market is also there, but we have to deal with some other factors that folks in the West really don't have to deal with.
Factors that are related to the digital divide.
Yes.
How do you see yourself expanding? You started with Yoruba. What other languages are you thinking of expanding into?
So I have done Igbo, I have done Hausa, but I mean, our process going forward is such that we want to start unbundling some of those apps, even as we scale, you know, towards other languages. So unbundling, I mean, if you look at the Yoruba 101 app, for example, it's about a dozen, you know, basic topics. You know, unbundling is the one that now, the unbundling process now will mean that we'll go in depth into one topic. So, you know, our next product is, you know, a Yoruba 101 greetings app, which is very specific to greetings in Yoruba culture. You know, the next one will likely be something that maybe takes, you know, days of the week, for example, and then go in depth, you know, helping you with conversations and things like that. You know, on the other hand, we also want to be able to go beyond Nigerian languages, you know. So I mean, all these, I mean, we have thousands of languages, or over 1,000 languages in Africa, you know, and by so doing, you know, or to that end, we want to engage people, you know, outside of the continent, which is one of the blessings of Yali to me, really, you know, the ability to connect with people from different parts of Africa, you know, because it's by working with them that we can actually get, you know, the right content to work with. If anything, we have a framework, you know, which is, you know, proven concept that works in terms of a combination of games and storytelling and lessons, you know. So it's basically just getting, you know, clearly vetted content from different parts of these countries, and then, you know, using our framework to actually deliver them to the audience.
Explain to us a little bit about the storytelling component to this.
Okay, so in terms of the language learning app, what we try to do is we build a story around, you know, the entire application. You know, so the Yoruba 101, for example, it's tagged Legend Edition, and the objective of a player is to become a legend, and you can only become a legend, you know, by demonstrating an understanding of the topics that we have in there. You know, you learn the lessons, you play games to test your skills, and then if you finish each game flawlessly, that is without failing one, you know, you then get to unlock a character. That character that you get to unlock, you know, you can read about that character, because that character is also a symbolic figure in the Yoruba culture and tradition. So the basis of these characters are African folklore. In a sense, you know, because I mean, these are actually characters that you can't speak about. As much as we're trying to teach Yoruba language, you can't speak about the Yoruba language and culture without touching on those characters, which are like the traditional gods and goddesses. You know, but one of the exactly, which brings a whole other different argument. Yeah, and I think this was the basis of our conversation 2 years ago, right? Because I'd written about my experience promoting that.
And you obviously, you know, for those who never listened to our radio show, I want you to tell the story about how you went to a school and you know, one of the teachers was not very happy about you teaching this aspect of their culture.
Yes. So as I was explaining earlier, because the Yoruba 101 app is such that you're not just learning a language, you're also getting to understand a bit about the history of the Yoruba culture from the point of view of, you know, things like evolution. So you have all those gods and goddesses that you speak of when you talk about Yoruba culture. Shango, the god of iron, and the rest of them. Now, we're not even god of thunder, rather. We didn't even go in depth into those characters. You just read, oh, Shango is taken as the god of blah blah blah. Oh yeah, he's taken as the wife of so. And so that's really on the surface. But then because we're a largely religious society, you know, in quotes, you know, I was trying to promote this, you know, across schools because that was the best way that I felt I could reach my audience, kids, you know, and I had this stumbling block. I mean, I walk into a school, meet an administrator who claims she's Christian, and you know she'll vet and say, Anna, you have to take these guys out.
These characters.
We need take these characters out and replace with Jesus or the angels, you know. And then I would go to and then I went to another school which was largely. Well, no, that's the thing. These are secular schools.
Right. They're supposed to be secular schools, but the administrators are religious and
it's either one of them. It's Christianity or Islam. Right. So I mean, this lady comes to me and says, "Hey, I mean, look, there's a problem with this because I mean, Islam doesn't promote this. You know, there has to be a way to take these characters out
and still be able to teach the language.
Still be able to teach the language. Right. And here's what we can do." Or we can actually leave the characters there, but emphasize to the kids that these guys, you know, are not relevant. This is just a myth. But here's the funny thing, though. I have audiences also in countries like Brazil, who their understanding of Yoruba is not the culture. It's not the language. Yeah, it's the religion. Yoruba is a religion to them. And so for them, it's, look, this is what we're interested in, the relationship between these traditional gods that we worship and the language itself, because we also use the language in the course of our practice, you know. So it was a funny thing for me, but at the end of the day, I looked inwards and I just stuck to the real thing for me, which was, just promoting the language and culture, because I mean, at the end of the day, it's ignorance if you don't know this thing, and I'm not about to to break that for kids just because some parent somewhere feels it's going to have an effect on
I'm sure you'll find all kinds of you'll meet all kinds of resistance along the way, but this is such a great project. Where do you see yourself growing in Africa more? Because right now you're in Nigeria. Have you identified any other countries, any other communities or cultures that you might see yourself starting to get into after covering Nigeria?
Yeah, so I
mean Nigeria in itself is quite big enough.
True. I think my first my point of reference now are my Yali fellows that I had the opportunity to interact with and worked on a similar project together. And so, at least if anything, I get that they get where I'm coming from, and they also have been able to reaffirm the fact that it's also a problem that cuts across their societies. And so, from the point of view of scaling this beyond Nigeria, as a team, we're trying to look at it from a regional point of view. So it's like, okay, so we've done something in West Africa. How can we go to East Africa? How can we go to Southern Africa? So
regional blocks.
Yeah, regional blocks. So if we go to Eastern Africa, Swahili perhaps, if we go to Southern Africa, Zulu perhaps, so we're looking at it from that point of view, but also we're just looking at it from the point of view of, who's readily available to work with us and what content are available, because at the end of the day, we want to promote as many of these languages as we can. So if we have anyone who's ready out there with this content, we'll work with that person. Would
you bring them to Lagos, or you see yourself expanding to these different communities and actually teaching young developers in those communities?
If it comes to that, and we can actually do that via our digital storytelling workshop, where we go to schools or summer camps to engage kids and build products together. Like we've done cartoon videos in Soweto, in Joburg, for example, which we did last year. Or it can actually be as basic as just even sending us materials remotely. But at the end of the day, we want to work with these people, so it's a collaborative effort that we all take credit for.
And what platforms are these apps on?
At the moment, Apple and iOS. Apple and iOS and Android.
Okay.
So you can find the apps on Google Play and Apple Store.
And how accessible are they to your target market?
In terms of the diaspora, readily accessible, because when it comes to the subject of apps, they're well knowledgeable in terms of that subject. In terms of the market back home, I mean, it's a growing one. You know, people are becoming more accustomed to the subject of apps. You know, the issue of bandwidth is a different one. The issue of accessibility in terms of, you know, how they really get access to them is also an issue, because, and that's where we need to work with the local telecoms players like the MTNs and co to make this accessible. So I would say readily accessible, because I mean, mobile technology is really growing. You know, so to the diaspora audience, yeah, those are my biggest audience.
So you've been working on this for a couple of years now. There's been this debate, we've had it on this show. African content creators like yourself, people in the digital market, have an issue with monetizing their content. How do you see yourself overcoming that?
So for me, what I find is as a probable solution is actually having our own distribution platform, because we have existing platforms out there that we've tried to work with, you know, but at the end of the day, you're basically, you know, selling yourself short. I mean, these guys, on the one hand, there's you know, people who are not even players locally coming in and dominating that industry in terms of distribution,
right?
You know, and then you have
making money off of it.
Making money, and then you know, crumbs, and so you have only breadcrumbs coming down to you. So, and if you compare that to, for example, a Google Play or an Apple, who, even though we don't get a lot of visibility from them because we don't get to be featured and things like that, you know, because they have all those, you know, high standards, you know. But here's the thing though, at the end of the day, they only take 30%, you know, but you're working with players back home who, you know, for all intents and purposes, you know, they're taking a huge chunk of this. And in most cases, sometimes you're not even dealing with one third party, you're dealing with about two of them. So at the end of the day,
so everybody takes off a little bit, skims off a little bit.
So it becomes a game of volumes for you,
right?
You know, and then you still have all the responsibility of promoting and things like that. So I think
developing or creating. I feel like that is actually the bulk of the work, is being able to come up with original ideas and you know, you should be able to be paid for that. So how at this point, how are you running the company?
So at this point, it's basically still using the business model of the app stores, which is the freemium model. You download the apps for free. You know, you pay for in-app purchases, which is also a good one to measure the interest of people, because if you play the free level and you go on to pay for other ones, it shows that you're really, you know, getting something out of it. So that's on the one hand, but that's very, in terms of our profit, in terms of our revenue, it's very insignificant, you know, in terms of how much is coming in. But then what I've been able to evolve as a company also is a consulting arm, you know, where we have been able to help publishers also, you know, bring their ideas to life. So we help book publishers, for example, bring, you know, their books to life in form of an app. So you have interactive storybooks that we develop for some authors.
So you use that revenue to run the company as you're doing, you know, the primary function of you know, of G9 Games.
Yes, so think of the value chain in terms of building an app, everything from illustrations to voiceover, you know, to coloring, to scripting. We do all that for, you know, so for clients also.
Well, what are some of the challenges aside from monetizing content for you as a young developer in Lagos, Nigeria? And I'm talking about infrastructural challenges that you have to overcome on a daily basis.
So I mean, of course there's electricity power.
Right.
From the point of view of Nigeria, it's a major problem.
I think that cuts across the continent, right?
Okay. You know, so that's a major problem. I mean, but for a long time, I was, you know, I was in a sense in a bubble, because I mean, I had the support of one of the co-working spaces, an incubator called the Co-Creation Hub. You know, I was with them for a long time, up until last year when I, you know, left the comfort of the space, you know, because I mean, comfort of the space being, you know, adequate power supply and, you know,
internet, reliable internet,
you know, reliable internet, right. You know. But I mean, moving, you know, into my own home office, you know, I've seen how tough it's been in terms of power. But I mean, amidst all these problems, also there are solutions, you know. So one of the things that we've seen in recent times in Nigeria is, well, when I say recent times, 5-6 years now, has been, you know, the popular, the growth of inverters, you know. So inverters are like, they're not generators, but they're like, it's this small equipment, and then you have a battery, so like a car battery or something bigger than that charges it. So if you have say maybe 6 or 7 hours of power supply at home, you can actually have a decent inverter that can keep you running for 3 days, you know. So that's what I invested in.
Third world problems, third world solutions.
Yeah, you know, so that, and that's just enough to cover, you know, my basic, you know, working tools, you know, my laptop and my internet modem, you know, so I can stay connected.
But obviously, when you expand, you will need a bigger office.
Yes,
and
a bigger office, a bigger inverter. Maybe then I have to go for solar. But the interesting thing is now we have those solutions. Because I mean, initially, what we all had to rely on was a generating set.
Yeah.
So you have to deal with the noise. You may deal with the noise, with fueling and things like that. But I mean, if you work with something like an inverter, whether it be solar or just a battery charged one, at the end of the day, you don't have to deal with, I mean, you're calling your clients in the States or anywhere in the world, you don't have to worry about the noise or anything like that.
Now, as a young entrepreneur, and I know we are winding down our conversation today, as a young entrepreneur, many young entrepreneurs on the continent say they have issues with being able to raise capital to help their ventures. Do you see yourself as somebody who is in the tech space, being able to raise funding or capital easier than somebody, say, who is doing agriculture?
I think it's relative, but I do know that I think at the end of the day we face the same challenges, because I mean, if we're talking about local investors, my understanding is these guys have alternatives. I mean, in Nigeria, for example, there's oil, there's the real estate. You know, there are all these things that can bring you cash overnight if you invest in them. And then there's tech, which is still growing. You know, agriculture to a reasonable extent, I think, is proven. You know, so I would say from my experience, raising money, I wouldn't say it has been a problem, you know, at least from the point of view of raising seed funds. I've had the support of the Co-Creation Hub, for example. I've had, you know, competitions from telecoms operators, you know, who've given out as much as $25,000. I've had the Tony Elumelu Foundation that supports young entrepreneurs across, you know, different sectors.
So they give you seed funding.
Yes,
but I'm talking about the time when you're ready to launch into the bigger market and you want to go to the bank and sell the idea as a young entrepreneur in the tech space.
Okay.
How receptive are, say, bankers or loan officers when you take to them technology-based ideas like yourself? So, like yours, like Gina again.
So on the one hand, I haven't tried it. And so I haven't tried it, and I haven't really. Is that
a path you see going to eventually, or you feel you're going to be able to raise enough capital yourself through your revenues to be able to not need outside capital?
So I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, without trying to condemn the commercial banks back home, I haven't heard people. They get knocks all the time, you know, for any kind of business, you know. So even at that, I don't even see them as a ready option for me in terms of raising loans. You know, getting cash to start to grow my business.
This is not even an option you have thought about yet.
No.
And that says something about about that sector. And finally, what is it that you feel like you've learned in as a Yali Fellow, and also your interaction with diaspora communities as somebody who's eventually going to be selling them a product?
So there's that ironic lesson, which is that I had to come all the way here to connect with my brothers and sisters from Africa and to learn about them, you know, and it's amazing.
You've met more Africans in America than you met in Africa.
And here's the thing, my story has been the story of, you know, a good number of all of them. And here's the one.
All of us.
Yes. So there's the one part where you find out that you don't know anything about people, even your neighbors, your next door neighbors, and then it speaks to what kind of education have we been having, where you don't even know jack about, you know, people across the other parts of, you know, the same continent. Then there's the bigger issue of stereotypes. You know, as a Nigerian, I can speak to that. I mean, we have these crazy stereotypes hanging over our heads, you know. But
you have a cloud wherever you go.
I mean, you have a cloud, and I'll give an instance also in terms of my own perception of others. So Zimbabwe for me, before Yali, was Robert Mugabe.
Yes.
Inflation, white farmers. Those were the three things that I knew. And those were the three things that I would say in the news, you get. But then, you know, I'm at Yali, I meet these two amazing Zimbabwean fellows who, I mean, blow me away in terms of how smart they are, in terms of how things are, I mean, they are thriving relatively in Zimbabwe despite all this nonsense I see on TV. So at the end of the day, it's a case of nothing beats a first-hand experience. Mainstream media just sells us, you know, I don't know, you know. So for me, it's been that experience, and it's been the same thing even when you flip the coin, you know. for me as a Nigerian, you meet me and then you understand also, okay, so he's Nigerian, but he's human first, so he has his own personality type.
And you put it first to Nigeria, not just the idea or the stereotype of Nigerians.
And then this, and one of the beauties of my fellowship at Dartmouth also was what we used to call it a cultural connection. So we would have weekly events where, you know, we would speak to the audience about our countries. So, I mean, it gave us an opportunity to speak to some of these misconceptions, you know. For the point of view of Nigeria, for example, our diversity, you know, what the complexities, you know, that make for both our beauties, you know, our potentials, and also, you know, the dramas that we have facing us back home. So for me, you know, amazing just learning about others, also reaffirming the fact that some of our problems are really, you know, they cut across. So the issue of languages, for example, you know, where, you know, theoretically I thought, okay, yeah, I'm sure in a sense it feels like that in Uganda and all these other places. I had people, you know, reaffirm the fact that, hey, this is a big issue for us. So, I mean, great lesson points for me from the point of view of Yali.
My last question to you, Adebayo, and this is Adebayo Agbembo, founder of G9 Games. You know, I mean, we talked about the perception issue, but the one thing that you're doing is also storytelling in a culture that we don't have a lot of written material. We are more of an oral traditional storytelling. How do you see technology helping keep some of the old stories alive? Old stories about our ancestors. We talked about some of the gods you incorporate in your lessons. How do you see technology helping advance or preserve our oral storytelling tradition?
So technology is, for me, a big blessing. It's a, you know, it's a. I mean, I can't even speak enough about its impact in terms of promotion and preservation of indigenous cultures. Just to give a quick instance, also, I was at the Smithsonian Museum of African Arts last week, and I got to understand that beyond just, you know, curating books, you know, they're also now, it's beyond just collecting books, you know, they're also collecting now digital content. So they have all these DVDs, they have even graphic novels, you know, out of Africa. And so for me, that tells me that, hey, this has gone beyond just, you know, paper, you know, materials about the continent or from the continent. They're actually, you know, growing with the times also, you know. So for me, that's a bigger way in terms of actually promoting and preserving these indigenous cultures. And I think that we can have enough of them. You know, if anything, technology will continue to evolve. And in terms of evolution, it's easy to just even move from one to the other. So I'll give an instance. From a development point of view, you have all those tools that help you not only promote or develop content for one platform, but for multiple platforms. And so it's also evolving. It gives us more options. There's also, in terms of consumption also, you know, from mobile phones to, you know, you know, watches and all these things.
Different gadgets.
Yeah, all these things. And that's the thing, you know, once you have this thing out there, there seems to be no limit to, you know, what they can, you know, evolve to from, you know, from the point of view of, you know, the development tools to the point of view of consumption. So I think it'll help a lot. I think it'll help a lot. I think I mean, you put something out there on the web, it's there forever, at least as far as I know. So I think it's the biggest and, you know, singular contributing factor to what will keep our you know, our cultures, you know, preserved, you know. And then there's also, even from the part of the narratives themselves, you know, we coming from the continent, you know, I mean, we may not go to Harvard or have access to, you know, opportunities to go to Harvard, all these big schools, but there are all these tools that have now lowered the barrier to entry in terms of, you know, doing something about your narratives, you know. So you can hear something from a griot or a griot, or your grandparents have it recorded on your phone, from a phone, have it distributed via WhatsApp or something, or just saving it up somewhere.
Access to knowledge and information is simplified. Where would people find your, you know, apps if they want to download it?
Okay, so first, my pleasure for having me. So to find Genie Games' app, just go to www.geniegames.com. That's GENII games.com.
GENII.com. GENII.
GENIIGAMES. So it's geniegames.com.
Okay.
Yes. So GENIIGAMES.com. And, you know, send me an email at bio@geniegames.com for collaborative, you know, opportunities. Yeah, I mean, shoot me an email for anything.
You're open for collaboration.
Very open to it.
Thank you very much.